Sure, why not? Okay, we're online and I think the mic works. So, I wanted to share this interesting issue that I stumbled on here while working on this 600XL, this maxed out 600XL for a Atari Age 4, remember. I've only got the one camera rigged up at the moment, but not being able to see me is not going to detract from the quality of the presentation, I wouldn't have thought. So anyway, we'll quick look at what we're doing here. We've got 600XL and it's been upgraded to 64K, which you can see the little wires here. And it's going to have VBXE in it, which is actually sitting here already, although it's not wired up yet. It has an Ultimate 1 megabyte board. Oh, Prodatron, hi, how are you doing? It's nice to see you. You're first in. It has an Ultimate 1 megabyte board here, which I've mounted because the screw holes actually line up perfectly with the either side of the PBI connector here. I'm pleased with the way this one's turned out. And what you can't actually see, what you can see, that used to be the OS-ROM socket on this board. Now, because the owner wants stereo pokey in this machine, if I had plugged in, you can see there what they call the hearting connector, which is an IDC to DIP adapter. Now, if that had been plugged in here in the front socket, the situation you end up with is that the stereo board won't fit in this position because it hits this. Surprisingly enough, I mean, it's not the lowest profile board, but it does hit that adapter when it's in the front socket. Now, what we can do on the 600XL, because it actually has, I may have another board here which I can use to demonstrate. Not the board that I fixed the other night, but here's a perfect example actually. Nice example. I'll flick the iron on as well. Excuse me while I find the other board. This isn't the board, as I say, this isn't the board I fixed the other day. This is a ravaged board. So here's the ravaged board from years ago. I make all my mistakes on my own stuff so that other people don't have to suffer. This is from about 7 years ago or something. I did a socketed the antic and broke loads of traces on the board. It's terrible, but it still works. If it had some chips in it, it would still work. Anyway, point being, if you look at the basic socket on the board at the back, you can see it has holes. It has 28 holes and a 24-pin socket. And right here, which I hope to show you on the schematic, but two problems there. I couldn't find the jumpers on the schematic, and I can't get window capture to work at all in Open Broadcaster, so I had to abandon that. There's a set of jumpers here, and if we view them from if we assume that the front via is position 1 from the factory, 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 are jumpered. Now if we take this socket out of the back, this basic socket here, replace it with a 28 pin socket and reverse the jumper position so we have 1, 2 and 3, 4 jumpered instead of 2, 3 and 4, 5, we can repurpose the basic socket as the operating system ROM socket. Now the odd thing about that, and I'm sure somebody will immediately jump in and tell me why it is that if you stick the original operating system ROM into this back socket after making this change, the machine doesn't work. I think it's because the jumpers set the socket up, or certainly the positions I use set the socket up for an EEPROM. But once you get the Ultimate 1 megabyte adapter plugged into there, everything works just great. So, upshot of that is we have Ultimate 1 megabyte in the preferred position. It's the position I prefer. The other place you could have put it, I suppose, is over here. And I haven't tried that yet. The cables would be a lot longer, and that's not really good. But one reason you might want to put the Ultimate board over the other side of the motherboard is if you wanted to fit Repeaters. And Repeaters comes with this adapter here, the Adaptus adapter. I'm sorry, the camera is further away from the desk. I tried putting the camera on the lower down, but once the weather warmed up, the adhesive gave way and the camera fell on the desk, so much for that. But yes, if you wanted to fit adapters in the corner of the board, would you be able to use the back socket? No, so that would have to go in the original OS-ROM socket. Repeaters goes into the adapters and Ultimate plugs into that pass-through there. So I guess you would have to mount Ultimate over here somewhere in that situation. I might give this a try one time. I really like the 600XL, and of course you've also got the CPU adapter for the Adaptus board. I really like the 600XL because it's a small footprint machine, and it would be quite fun. Not that I'm actually not a big fan of Repeaters, not in the fact that I've got anything against it, but because it works quite well now, but not from a purism sense. It's just, you know, why I don't feel this compelling need to have a 20 megahertz CPU in the machine. But it'd be kind of fun to see if we could cram all this stuff into the smallest Atari that was ever built. Anyway, I digress. So this is the chosen position here. I like this arrangement because the cables are short and it looks neat and nothing gets in the way over here. So next thing, we're going to put Pokey, stereo Pokey, in this position here. Big problem we have straight away, if you have a look, is that the pins, come on, if you can focus, that would be awesome. Right, there we go. Big problem is that the pins are going to, they would actually go under the Ultimate board, but the Ultimate board's got the battery at the front, so the pins will crash in here. So the first thing we're going to need to do to get this to work is to replace these pins with upright pins like these ones. That will cure that problem. Next problem is that we're going to fit U-switch, which is a digital to analog converter, so that the Ultimate 1 megabyte board can drive the on-off switch, which is basically a mechanical switch header in software. This board typically hangs over the back of the stereo Pokey board like this, and you can probably imagine, before we even try, is that that's gonna, even when the, I think, even when the ultimate board, if I just sort of test fit. And actually no, it might not. It's going to be touch and go whether that fits under. We're going to have to try. Yeah, we're going to have to try this. Let's see if we can get this to fit under here. Let's see if it's going to work. Let's have a look. It's going to be an extremely tight squeeze. Let's see. Even to get the damn thing in. Come on. Maneuver that round. It is a tight squeeze. Let's see if we can get this in. Right. Push. No, we're going to have to remove these. I'm going to bend these up momentarily just for the purposes of this test before I remove them properly. Let's see if we can get this in. Alright. Push this in here. Right, that's in. We'll have to move that capacitor as well. That doesn't give us a very good indication. So I'm going to move this capacitor first. Let's get this out of the way. Where are you? Right here. Alright, so I'm just going to bend that capacitor out of the way for a minute and try again. Because what I want to try and establish is whether this U-switch board is going to have to go underneath the board or whether it can stay on the top. Right, so push that down so the stereo board's now in. And yes, it's not good, because if we look sideways on, if I can get the camera in the right position, you can see that the U-switch board is bent down, completely crashing into the bottom of the ultimate board. We don't want to mount the ultimate board any higher because we risk crashing into the back of the keyboard. But we have got space, I think. Oh, this is pretty bad. Really? This is a bit of an issue. What we can do, I think the best thing to do in these circumstances is we will completely reverse the direction of the U-switch board. So what I'm going to do, instead of mounting it this way on, I'm going to flip it round, because we could either mount it underneath like that. That's not going to work because it's going to hit the back of the front of the Harting connector on that back socket. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it round that way, hopefully, if it will fit. Will it fit? Flip it around that way, and we'll have to file it down a bit. Flip it around that way so it's tucked underneath. Well, that should work. And then mount all the headers so they point out like that. Will this work? It should work. Yeah, because we've got pretty much unlimited clearance under here, so that seems a reasonable approach. I would say. I think. Yeah, I think that's going to be the most efficient way of doing it. Now we'll have to file the end of the board down as well, which is a bit annoying, but let's go ahead and do that. Let's file this down a little bit. So the idea of this is that we shorten this board because it's going to sort of go back in under itself. Back in on itself. So we've taken about 1 millimetre off the edge of that board. Oh, you can't focus, can't see it. Right. Oh. Yeah, man. Wow, it just does not want to focus on that at all. There we go. So we've taken a bit off the edge of that board. Let's try and straighten it out a bit. Make it look a bit nicer. There we go. So, having done that, hopefully when we mount this backwards like this, it should just fit. Is it going to fit? I think we need to take a bit more off. This, yeah, if you've just tuned in, I'm filing something. Yes. Right, is that going to fit? I think just about there. I think that will fit. Okay, so let's move this board out of the way for a minute and see about getting this header off. So we're going to completely reverse the position of this stuff. So it's going to go on the underside of the board. So that should just slide off. There we go. And we want to remove these as well and replace them with proper upright headers. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's use the old glue tack and pull these pins out. Remove the mic. Okay, so we're going to remove these. Remove them. We'll put this up right. In fact, we might as well put it in the machine. Probably the best way to hold it. Right. So we're going to remove these 6 pins. Clear the holes. Could have done those other ones while we're on, I think. Let's do that. Snip them. take these off. So all these pins are going to come off. Add a bit of extra solder there. Okay. Having done that, we'll now clear the solder out of the holes, drop the solder on the floor, get some flux on here. I really must sort this camera angle out because I quite like the closer view of the desk before. It was pretty good. Right, I'm going to go for the edge of the desk here. Push this onto here. There we go. Add some extra solder here. Okay. Just whack the solder out of these holes, get them nice and clean. If solder doesn't come out first time, don't worry about it, don't labour the point, move on to the next one. Add flux and come back to it, and then we'll give it a little touch of wick to clean it up. That one just awkward as sin, so we'll add a bit more solder and we'll just attack that one with some wick. Pop this in that socket, quite useful. Pop it in backwards, then we can work on it a bit more easily. Bit of flux on the board. Tech flux. There, finally. There's always one. And you need to get these pretty well cleaned out, because otherwise you'll find the connector won't go in. It looks reasonable. We'll clean it up with a bit of acetone. Give it another once over with a wick on the other side before we do that, just to make sure it's all nice. I should have pre-recorded and... Hi pensioner, nice to see you live at work. Well, I don't know if I'd use the word alive or live. Mostly conscious. I certainly didn't expect to be filing down the edge of a U switchboard. I didn't think it was going to be that involved. There we go, that looks reasonably nice and clean. If we have a look, I'm going to clean the all that flux mess off the board, but the main thing is that there's no damage. And hopefully this crazy plan will work, because the only thing we're liable to run into problems with here is the fact that I'm going to mount so I'm going to mount this way on. Let me get this right. Yes, we're going to mount this way on, because the orientation this way and this way makes absolutely no difference. It's the kind of lateral orientation that matters. So we're going to mount this here, and then we're going to put some pins going back on themselves, because we can't have them facing this way obviously. We're going to have the pins facing back on themselves for the actual connections to the Ultimate 1 megabyte board. So hopefully it's all going to work, but it's exciting because we don't know how it's going to turn out. So this is real adventure time. I've done something, I think I've mounted the thing this way before. I can't remember why. I think was it an XEGS? I had to do basically the same thing as this. I'm pretty sure it was. Because I think with the XEGS, things just crashed into each other in a completely disastrous manner, in much the same way. I'm going to take a bit of time to clean this up, because I don't like the tacky residue all over the place. Right, that looks okay. Have a close look at this. I think it had just come out of the board house. So what we need now, in my box of tricks here, the white box on the table makes the exposure go to hell. Look at this camera, it's not even straight, it's just terrible. I've got to fix this up properly. That's what happens when you don't stream for a long time. I know I haven't been on for a while, but it's just... it's quite... having to make sure that I'm presentable, you know, it's really the case. And it is a distraction, obviously, from what I'm doing. So sometimes it's just more expedient to just go ahead and get the job done. But I thought this was sufficiently useful that it might be of interest. So This is where we find out it's going to be a complete bust. So we're going to mount this. This is the back side of the board. We're going to mount it this way on. Okay, and it's kind of it's there. It's there. It fits. Right, so it fits like that. It's, as you can see, it's up against the side of the it's up against the side of the legs. God, it just doesn't get any more of a tight squeeze than this, because in here, and I've also forgot to get these parts while I was on, or did I get those parts? Did I? Oh, we'll get some more. I'm going to put, we need VCC and ground connections, but also, I don't like to hardwire stuff, so what we're also going to need is that. This is what I'm talking about. We're going to mount that so it points out like this, so we can plug in the jumper and the signal wire from MO on the Ultimate 1MB board and hope that it's all gonna fit. I think it will. I think it will, but we better check before we solder anything in place. Or we're going to hit these capacitors here. We might have to get a little bit creative with this. Yes. So I'm going to try and just plug the thing in with everything loose and see what it looks like. Basically, I've hit something. Oh wow, I've hit, oh damn. That's something I didn't think about. I didn't think about this chip here. Oh. Can I not mount it that way? Can I mount it that way? That would be better. I'm just curious, if I mount it like that, can that work? Probably not. If it would go in that way, let's assume it would. Okay, so if it would go in that way, this is trickier than I assumed it would be. Much. So we can't put it on that way. We can't put it in this way. Or can we? If I could mount this flat on the board, it could fit. I think what we're going to have to do with this is try and mount this completely flat on here. If we can do that, I think it might work. So let's try it. So if we can get this in here, but so that it's completely flat. So change of plan, we're going to try something different. We're going to mount this flat on this board here. I'm going to hold that in with my finger, and that's what we're going to do now. We're going to mount that flat on the board. I can't see it because it won't focus. Mount that, come on. Right, we're going to mount that flat on the board like that, and it's just going to clear the underside of the ultimate board. I can see this is the only way we're going to do this, and then we'll mount the pins inward facing or outward facing on the back. It doesn't really make any difference, but it is going to clear everything that way. I don't even think we'll necessarily need insulation on it. We might, I don't know. So let's try that. We can always put some insulation on it if we need to. Because there's nothing on there that's going to get in the way. Any traces here that need to be worried about? We'll have a look. As far as I can tell, what would work is if I could mount this the other way on. Like that. Very tricky. Of course we could take that socket off, I suppose. I don't particularly want to do that. I think I'm going to have to go in, figure out how to do this, and think carefully about it. It was only supposed to be a short minute video, but I'll go away and figure out how this is going to be done. And then I'll come back with a solution a bit later on. So, yeah, sorry about that. So, hope it was of some use, but I will follow up shortly. Thanks to those who turned up in chat, and I will return presently. So I'll see you soon.